What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video, and back with a slightly different format for this week's Mock Draft Monday. We're going to test this out. Let me know after this video, do you prefer this setup or the one from Fantasy Pros? I do know visually Fantasy Pros is better, but the ADPs are just not great right now, so maybe when they kind of figure themselves out, we go back to that. But let me know if you prefer this one or the old one. This league is going to be a 12-team half PPR league, and as you can see right here, I'm going to put this down. We'll show the full draft board in a second, but it's one quarterback, two running back, two wide receiver, a tight end, two flex, and a bunch of bench spots. I didn't draft the defense because if you were drafting a league right now, you wouldn't draft the defense. If I had taken one, I don't know, maybe like the Eagles or the Jets, probably would have been someone I would have drafted. So we're going to walk through my thought process in this draft, and then I'll maybe highlight a few other teams, a few different things I saw, but I think the ADPs in this should be a lot more accurate because I basically just posted this in the Discord. That's completely free. I'll link that in the description box down below for anyone to join. And then I posted the link on Twitter as well for anyone who saw that there. My team, Enzilak here. We got, what was that, the fifth pick? Fifth pick is tough. You guys have heard me say a while. I randomized the order here as well, so we didn't get people who were like really good from the 12th pick joining in, doing the 12th pick, something like that. All random. But from the fifth pick, we know that's a difficult spot because you know that Jefferson, Chase, and McCaffrey are coming off the board in some order, 1, 2, 3. Most people take Kupp at the 4 pick, but I've seen Kupp and Tyreek Hill, and you're basically deciding between Tyreek Hill, in my opinion, Tyreek Hill or Austin Eckler, or if you want to throw Bijan in there, that's really a decision you're making at 5. I've kind of said that I don't love going the Kelsey route at 5. I think it's totally fine, but my opinion is, even though ADP in many sites has Eckler more in that like 7, 8, 9 range, I just prefer him because we know with 100% certainty, the offense is going to be amazing. He's going to have plenty of touchdowns, going to have targets. Like, many people can have unlucky season. Austin Eckler kind of can't. No one is coming for his job. There's just no world where he doesn't score touchdowns. Like, he's incredibly safe, incredibly high upside. I think he is the pick there at 5. So I take him. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, Hero RB is a really, really good setup. It's slightly more optimal on best ball sites like Underdog, but it is still a really good setup in redraft leagues. And especially we want, if we're not doing Hero RB, 2 running backs in the first 5 rounds. 3 in the first 5 is fine, but you're aiming for 2. So that was kind of in the back of my mind. I get to the second pick, and as you can see, Pollard, Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Stevenson, I guess you could throw Gibbs in there. Were basically my options at running back. Didn't really love it. I was pretty sure that someone from that general group was going to be there in the 3rd round if I wanted to go there. I was thinking maybe someone like Hall or Pollard would fall. They definitely didn't. They went the 2 picks after me, but I was thinking maybe one of them would fall to me the next pick. But I did see a drop-off at wide receiver, and I was pretty certain that all of Amon St. Brown, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, I thought they'd all be taken. Like, if I didn't take St. Brown, someone was going to take him. And so I didn't want to get too stuck at the wide receiver position, especially in a league where you can start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and then you have 2 flex. So I can start up to 4 wide receivers. It's something you should definitely consider because wide receivers have, that week winning upside. They bust at, a slightly lower rate in these early rounds. Like, I should be focusing on the wide receiver position, especially I have Austin Eckler, right? I've already locked that up. So I wanted to get one of them. St. Brown was the top in the rankings. I would have gone St. Brown, then Olave, then T. Higgins, then Devonta Smith, as we have seen in the video about a week ago, Thursday video breakdown. So I go with St. Brown. A little unfortunate. None of the running backs fall, but I also kind of had a backup plan of either Mark Andrews or one of the top 3 quarterbacks. And that's what I felt confident taking St. Brown because I'm like, well, let's say I take St. Brown and let's say Higgins and Olave are gone. Let's say people take Hall, they take Pollard, those guys go off the board. It was still incredibly likely I'd end up with either one of the top end quarterbacks or Mark Andrews. And I would have been fine with any of those outcomes. We get, I guess, relatively lucky, but I thought it would happen. One of the quarterbacks is available. We take Jalen Hurts in round 3. And so we've got Hurts, Eckler, St. Brown. We're not thin any position that we should be strong at right now. We've got plenty of upside with all the picks. We will very, very solid start to the draft. Very strong with a lot of upside. We get to the 4th round. Obviously, we're going to start seeing drop-offs in players. But I was very pleased. We kind of got to the end of this wide receiver tier of really, if you wanted to say like Debo, Amari, Keenan Allen, McLaurin, Ridley, and Hopkins. If you want to throw Chris Godwin in there, you can. I would say Chris Godwin is probably more in that tier of like Godwin, Moore, London, Christian Watson, who all go in that next round. So I was really hoping that one of those wide receivers would fall to me, because I looked at running back as well, and it was like, well, obviously I knew Stevenson and Gibbs wouldn't be on the board in round 4. They weren't. Jones goes, Etienne goes, Dobbins goes. So I'm looking at running back, and it's like, I could take Mixon, but now we're taking Mixon a lot closer to where he should be, and he does still have a little bit of risk kind of attached to him. Could they end up cutting him? Could he get some suspension? Like things that I don't think are going to happen, but are still there. And so, you know, I like his ADP much more in Underdog. We're getting a lot later. It felt a little bit early for me to take him. But if I liked both the Hopkins and Ridley, I just took one I slightly prefer. If you wanted Hopkins, I wouldn't care at all. So we start off again. Got a running back with Eckler, St. Brown, Ridley, and our quarterbacks. We're feeling really good. I get to the 5th round. I'm like, okay, we know 2 running backs and 5 is optimal. Look at the wide receivers. I would be fine if anyone wanted to go with DJ Moore or Drake London there. They're both phenomenal picks in a vacuum. I thought that it was slightly more valuable for me to grab that second running back, really make sure we're strong, because I didn't really know what was going to happen in the middle rounds. I thought that, you know, definitely a possibility people would go a little bit running back heavy, that I wouldn't really hit on any value there. And I didn't want to say I probably would have taken Drake London at this spot. And if I take Drake London and I have 3 wide receivers, I can still be attacking wide receiver, but I thought there was a bigger risk that it would get kind of thin at the running back position. And if that were to happen, you know, my team could like not be great. Like if I started off with like, you know, 5 wide receivers, I can't get that second running back. I'm, you know, putting a lot on Austin Eckler, and I'm not really providing much in that second spot. So wanted to take Madison. Definitely came down to Madison or Pierce. Pierce gets taken 1 pick before me. I've seen a lot of people kind of question Madison this early. I think mid 5th round is definitely fine. I think I have him ranked at like 411, although I think I dropped him a little bit. He might be now at like, you know, 501, 502, somewhere in that range. But like we know Dalvin is gone. We know that Ty Chandler, Dwayne McBride are fine, but it's pretty unlikely any of them are actually going to challenge him for that 1 spot. I don't even think turning it into 1A is probably going to happen. We've seen that he's been very, very fantasy productive in the past when he's got an opportunity. It's a very, very high upside offense. There's a lot of factors going to Madison to where it's like 5th round, you know, huge drop off in talent at that spot. That's a great spot to be attacking him. So we've got our 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Don't have tight end yet. Considered it with this 6th pick. I was really going back and forth between taking Marquise Brown, taking Darren Waller, and honestly taking David Montgomery. Those were like the 3 players I was really considering. I opted to not go with Waller because I thought maybe he would fall to the next pick, and I was really hoping that I would just use tight end as a spot to where it was like, if I didn't like anyone, you know, because I was between 2 other players, if there was a spot where I was like, wow, I don't even know who to draft, which is going to happen to us in a second, that's where I wanted to take tight end. But I think the Waller pick was really good where he got him. So I think it could have gone with Waller in that 6th round, but ended up going with Marquise Brown. Talked about him, I believe, in the Saturday video, to where his ADP is definitely rising right now because he's, you know, the number 1 wide receiver on the Cardinals. I think I'm maybe at or a few spots behind ADP. I'm definitely not ahead of ADP on him, but he did fall a little bit in this draft. Totally fine taking him in this spot. Basically, what I said in the video was I'm not like, you know, in love with him, but if he becomes a value, becomes a top wide receiver in the rankings, you want some upside, go for it. I'm always looking for upside, especially, you know, in round, you know, mid 6th round, you definitely want to be attacking some upside there. So I take him just to add in with Calvin and Moner St. Brown. Because honestly, I mean, you know, Calvin hasn't played football in a long time. We don't exactly know what the split's going to be between St. Brown and Jameson Williams when he returns. So there's still some risk, like not much. I think St. Brown really are going to be great players this season, but there's at least a little bit of risk in both of them to where I was like, let's grab another receiver, another upside receiver, go with Marquise Brown. But again, would have been fine with Montgomery or Waller at that spot. In the 7th round, I didn't love the pick. I really don't like drafting Pacheco right now. His ADP is definitely falling a lot. There's just risk there. You know, they signed Jerick McKinnon. They still have Clyde. It looks like Clyde's having a good camp. we don't really know, right? It's air quotes on having a good camp. Like, we'll see when the pads go on. We'll see when we get into like July, into August, who's actually performing well. I think just the no hype on Pacheco is really why his ADP is falling right now. But in the 7th round, if he can improve at all from his rookie season, which was really, really good, he's definitely got upside on this offense. If he can beat out Clyde, be like, fully the 1A on the ground, mid 7th round is like a really good spot to be taking that. So again, wide receivers, St. Brown, Ridley, Marquise Brown. We've got Eckler, Madison, and Pacheco, and then we've got Jalen Hurts at quarterback. We fill in tight end in the 8th round, and this was what I was talking about before. I didn't really know who to pick. No one was screaming at me. I definitely could have gone with JSN. Honestly, I was considering Elijah Moore, who I take in the 9th round in this build. I was considering him at this pick. I figured maybe Elijah Moore would be there. Maybe some other value would be there. And I just didn't like anything at the running back position. I was also considering P. Ryan. Maybe he could fall to that 9th pick. A-Chain, I was thinking could fall to that 9 pick. So I thought there were options in the next round to where I didn't really want to double dip on those players. And I have said for a while, I do want a higher end tight end this season. I don't know. I think that's the one pick where I was like, nothing really was there. I was definitely hoping that like Williams, it's Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, Penny, one of them would fall to me at that pick. I was actually hoping Treylon Burks or like Dotson would fall to me. None of them do. Brandon Cooks, I really actually wanted. He goes the pick before me. And so nothing was really there. No great value. Attack the tight end position. It's kind of the motto there. And it really, if I invested in Ridley, I'm hoping this offense is really good. That's going to help out Evan Ingram. Again, kind of alluded to it before. Elijah Moore in the 9th round. I just really like Elijah Moore. I think he's being undervalued this season. He's a phenomenal player. He's been fantastic on the Jets. They just can't get him the ball. I'm going to be drafting Elijah Moore a ton. Don't need to go over that too much more. He's going to be great. Next round, Myers. That was another one. There was just nothing that I wanted. I was not going to take a backup quarterback. I was not going to take a backup tight end this early. I wouldn't be against it, but I didn't want to take that this early. At running back, I was considering Elijah Mitchell. I was considering Kendre Miller, who I wanted at the next round. He gets taken 1 pick before me. I was considering, honestly, Tank Bigsby, but I thought that was too early in the 10th round. So there was no one at running back I wanted. So I was just like, hey, let's just take the top wide receiver in the rankings. It's not a pretty pick, but Jacoby Myers is a very good player. I'm expecting the Raiders to lose a decent amount of games this season. He could come out there and just provide, consistent flex value, be someone that I can kind of mix in and out of that flex or even second flex spot. Just a good player. Want to draft good players. Mooney in 11. That was another one. I wouldn't say I was in love with it. I really wanted Kendre Miller. Maybe there was a chance that Mingo, the guy above, a chance that Mingo would have fallen to that pick. But another one that I was basically just like, I don't want my quarterback. I don't want a backup tight end. I don't like the running backs. So yet again, let's take the top ranked wide receiver. I'm not like against Mooney. It's just that's exactly where he should go, is like the mid 11th round. There's no real value with that pick. He's not going to break out and have a monster season, but he can definitely provide some upside. And definitely in weeks where we're expecting the Bears, to maybe play from behind, to play faster, to play against poor defense. He definitely has high weekly upside. So he's someone I can mix in the flex as well. Got to round 12, and I was like, okay, I only have 3 running backs. Like I do need to start attacking this. And I basically, just for the rest of the draft, I took 3 running backs in the last 4 rounds. I wanted some level of upside. Jaren Warren obviously has a ton of upside. If Najee Harris got injured, Jalen Warren proved last season he is a very good running back. There's no one else on the roster that's going to push him for those backup touches. So, just a very quality pick in this 12th round range. We take Gallup in the next pick. He went way later than ADP. I was actually considering Dulcich if he had fallen to that pick as that backup tight end. When that didn't happen, I definitely considered Juwan Johnson, but I also thought, hey, maybe in the 14th round, one of Juwan, Laporta, or Irv Smith fall to me. None of them do, so I just didn't draft a backup tight end because there was never just an option for me to really take one. But Gallup, just a very, very strong pick. Number 2, I guess kind of a 2A or 2B. We don't really know how that's going to turn out, but filling that outside wide receiver role, many times the X receiver role for Dallas, just a very good player. Camp reports are very good. He's a little bit more removed from the knee injury. Going to be a good offense. Like, again, just taking the top wide receiver in the rankings, but he cratered in the 13th round. He shouldn't be available. And in the last 2 rounds, Mostert, Chase Brown, just going for some upside. There's honestly some upside on Mostert if Dalvin Cook, and I think this is why he felt a lot. Like his ADP is way higher in the 14th round. I have him tanked. I have him way behind ADP, but he was the top running back in the rankings at the pick that I was making here. But yeah, I mean, there is a chance, number one, that Dalvin Cook doesn't go there, in which case Mostert is definitely the number 2 running back on that team, which will provide way more value in the 14th round. What if Dalvin Cook goes there? They have to end up getting rid of Mostert, and he goes to a backfield where he becomes the number 2 there. You definitely don't want Dalvin Cook to be, signing with the Dolphins to have Mostert working out a ton. Like he would just be a neutral pick if that happened. But I think a lot of people are kind of locked into being, oh, Dalvin is definitely going to Miami. It's like, yeah, that seems likely, but he's also asking for a lot of money. And I don't know if Miami is going to invest a lot of like capital into him. Like they just drafted A-Chain. The team knows that they don't need like a super high-end running back. Like Dalvin would be awesome on the team, but they don't need it. They can get production from most players that can like fit the system. And they know that Mostert and Jeff Wilson can fit the system. And if they think A-Chain can as well, maybe they're not willing to invest. He's asking for like 10. He's saying he's not going to take 5 million, which I think is around where Miami wants to be at. If he's not willing to take like 7 or 8 and like drop below that range, I think it's possible someone else does go after him, does give him a contract, in which case, A-Chain goes way up, Mostert, Jeff Wilson all go way up from where they're going right now. So I figured, hey, that's a possibility. Take him. And then Chase Brown, just pure handcuff. Something could happen to Joe Mixon. That's better than just taking defense. Like if we were drafting right now, why take your defense and sit on it? Take Chase Brown. If nothing happens, Mixon stays on the team, you cut Chase Brown, or you cut Mostert if, Dalvin Cook is just cut one of them to pick up your defense after that. So that's my team. That's the thought process around my team. A few things I want to point out. One, me and Cucumber over here, only 2 teams to not draft a backup tight end. I would say it's 50-50. Like for Kelsey, that's correct. Don't draft a backup tight end if you took Kelsey. If you take Kelsey in round 1 and he tears his ACL, like you probably lost anyways, but taking that backup late is not going to do anything for your team. You need help in other positions. Don't take a backup. For me, taking Ingram, it could go either way. If you wanted to take this Mostert pick and make it a tight end, I almost did it. Again, there were multiple times, round 13, round 14, where I considered taking a tight end. It just never became a value that I really wanted. But it's like, I wouldn't be starting them anyways, so I don't think you need to. I don't think this counts as the double dip. Remember, we either want one early or to kind of double dip later on. I don't think you need to double dip with Ingram. I think it basically starts with Kmet. I would say like you don't need to double dip with Njoku. I don't think you definitely can. Like I think it's fine that everyone did, but Njoku I don't think you need to. Pat I don't think you need to, and Ingram I don't think you need to. Once you get into Kmet, Okonkwo, Schultz, Higbee, I would be taking 2 at that point because now your odds are much lower. Another thing I want to point out, a team that took Lamar, I wouldn't have drafted Tua personally. If Lamar Jackson's going to be worth taking a 3rd round pick, he's going off, right? They're passing a lot more. The offense is scoring a lot more touchdowns. He's producing very well, in which case the Tua pick doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You just spent a 3rd round pick on Lamar. And if the Tua pick were to make sense, well, now you just spent a 3rd round pick on Lamar that like could have been Deebo Samuel. It could have been Amari Cooper, and that would have helped out a lot more than starting Tua and benching Lamar. I know a lot of people do this because they think, maybe Tua goes off and you trade it. Maybe Lamar goes off and you trade them. I would never draft a player with the intention of trading them. It happens far less often than you think when you're drafting. So I wouldn't have done that. I would say start drafting a backup maybe after like Watson. Like if you want to draft backups to like Dak, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, Tua, Geno, that's all totally fine. Take 2 there. I think before that, you really only need to take 1. Not totally against it, but I would probably only take 1. I made a note. This team here, White AMC, very interesting team, doesn't draft a quarterback or a tight end until round 11, but then goes quarterback, tight end, defense to close things out. So for the first 10 rounds, all running backs and wide receiver. That's a very, very FFA build from like a few years ago. I was very, very in on this strategy when, multiple late quarterbacks was crushing in every year. It's becoming a little bit less optimal because like, when I go against them with Jalen Hurts, well, Jalen Hurts is definitely going to be better than whoever like Wilson or Rodgers is. At least, I mean, Hurts could end up busting, and then my team, which hinges on that. But the most likely outcome is that Jalen Hurts is going to project for a good amount more points than these players, and just has a ceiling, with him, Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow. They just have higher ceilings than we'd really seen in the past, especially with some of these mobile quarterbacks. So this build is going away a little bit, but if Rodgers and Wilson really step it up and improve this season, and you're able to kind of like rotate through them at 13th and 11th round picks, and if Everett and Ertz, I mean, I don't think I would have taken those two tight ends in particular, but if you've taken two tight ends later on and you can kind of rotate through them, maybe hit on one of them, like having this core of running backs, Jonathan Taylor, Jacobs, Javonte Williams, Jamal Williams, Khalil Herbert, and then this wide receiver core, Devonta Smith, Terry McLaurin, Drake London, Michael Pittman, Kadarius Toney, like you're very, very strong at running back, wide receiver, and in the flex to go along with what we're hoping we can kind of rotate through the other two. So I think that's a very, very viable build, one we don't see as much right now. I liked this team. Kyle Bartlett over here goes with McCaffrey in round one, like a semi-hero build. Starts off McCaffrey, then Higgins, Olave, Godwin, very, very strong at wide receiver. Goes back with two running backs I love, Sanders and Montgomery, and then back to Lockett. So again, we're through 7 rounds. We don't have a tight end. We don't have a quarterback, but we're very, very strong at other positions. Goes with Watson and Anthony Richardson. I love that. Watson high upside, Richardson high upside. Both have kind of low floors, but if you take 2 high upside players, you only need one of them to hit. And then I love the tight ends. Njoku, stacking with Watson. We're betting on Cleveland here. And then Okonkwo. I mean, someone who should have a pretty decent role in the receiving game this season. Nice backup tight end with good upside. And then I love the backup picks here. Romeo Doubs is being undervalued right now. Jerome Ford's being undervalued right now. Jeff Wilson, I don't know if I would have made that pick, maybe someone else. But, hey, very, very good team there. I think that might be my favorite build. And then Z Willard 22, I'd written down as just like a very, very high upside team. Needs the running backs to work out. It's a very risky build. Only 4 total running backs. Like I'm thin at running back and I have 6 of them right now. Only take Stevenson in round 3, James Cook in round 8, A-Chain in round 9, Clyde in round 14. But what if Clyde has a phenomenal camp, beats out, Isaiah Pacheco, takes the reins as the 1A. That's a phenomenal pick in round 14. If you're assuming Stevenson in round 3 that he's being featured back this season, returns, top 10 running back value, you're basically relying on that Clyde pick. A-Chain, maybe we don't see Dalvin Cook go to Miami. A-Chain's, the 1A in that offense. He returns, 5th or 6th round value. James Cook, maybe just like takes a step in year 2, highly efficient, has a lot of production in that running back 2 spot. If that can happen, you're looking at Justin Herbert, quarterback I love this season. Hawkinson could legitimately have 100, 110 receptions, and a wide receiver core. Starts off Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, Judy, Burks, Lazard, Zay Jones. Like starts off very, very strong and still has very, very good mid-round players. So those are teams that I really like, and a lot of different builds going with, some tight end quarterback early, some that we waited later on, and then my build that kind of has like a balance of all of them, taking that top end quarterback, mid-range tight end, and just kind of alternating through running back and wide receivers through the rest of the draft. So again, please let me know if you prefer this setup to what we had in previous mock draft Mondays. The ADPs will be accurate because we're going to be drafting teams with actual subscribers, people who would be treating this like it was their actual draft. But I know the setup wise visually for the other one is a little bit more appealing. So again, let me know. Tomorrow we will be live at 6:30 Eastern to do a Best Ball Mania 4 draft, and we'll answer any questions you guys have in that video. Wednesday, I think it's going to be a top 30 rankings. We're just going to walk through my top 30 rankings by tiers and kind of go over what I'm thinking there. And then Thursday is going to be a player breakdown video. I don't have exactly who that's going to be. You can put that in the comment section, but I'll probably go with whatever's upvoted in last week's video. So that'll do it for this one. Hope you all did enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button? How about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? Thanks for watching.